Welcome to Laphroaig Distillery. My name's John Campbell. It's my honour to be the distillery manager here at Laphroaig. Now, over 15,000 people make a pilgrimage to Islay every year to take a tour of the facility and see what goes into making Laphroaig unique. Today I'm going to take you a personal tour through the plant and through all the processes that go into making Laphroaig such an iconic brand within the whisky industry. There's a couple of spots outside first that go into help making us unique, so we're going to go there and we'll see them first. Okay? Okay, here we are, about 500 feet above the distillery in the hills, and this is the water supply for Laphroaig. The Kilbride stream you can hear behind us, and behind that the dam and the Kilbride reservoir. 5 million gallons of water are kept in here, and this gives the distillery the supply it needs all year round. Now in the glass here, this isn't whisky, this is the water supply. This is the liquid from the Kilbride reservoir. You can see there's a lot of sediment, a lot of colour. 15% of the flavour from the whisky will actually come from the water supply. So it's really crucial we have a nice soft peaty water to keep the flavour profile the same. So here we are in the Kilbride stream on its way to the distillery, and this part behind us here, which you see, plays a big part in the Laphroaig's history. Just over 100 years ago, 1907, we had a water wars with our neighbours, and this was just part of a kind of overall dispute we had with them. What they did, they took the master distiller from Laphroaig, they copied the size and shape of the stills, and the last part, they diverted their water supply up so that it could feed this distillery. We eventually got through this process and got the water going back to Laphroaig, and one of the kind of results of that was that we bought up the land that surrounds this water supply, and just to be sure that this could never happen again. And recently this land has now been used to become the plots for the Friends of Laphroaig too. So the peated water supply is one of the things that makes us unique. Another thing that is crucial to Laphroaig's flavour profile is peat. And we're going to take you out to the peat beds now and show you how we cut peat here at Laphroaig. We're here now at the Laphroaig peat beds, a very special place for us, and what we do here, this is where we cut the peats that give us the flavour in our kilns when we flavour the malted barley. So how do you cut peat? Well, you need to use tools like this here. Now this is our peat cutter here. There are other associated tools with the job, but this is the main one we use to harvest out the ground. And we just take it like this, we'll dig it out as such, through, take it out, flop it out on the side, and then we just hopefully get the weather, not always the case in Islay, to dry it out. Roughly take about 3 months to dry out. We'll then bring it back to the distillery, we'll put it in the peat shed for storage, and that'll do us for the next year. So the peat in Islay, very different to the peat in mainland Scotland. You've got all these grassy roots and funguses decayed in here, and that's what makes the Islay peat unique. Gives Laphroaig the very kind of earthy, kind of medicinal flavours. These sphagnum mosses are really crucial to the flavour profile of this peat. The moisture content as well, and all of these things go together, make it very different from mainland peat, because the mainland peat in Scotland is based in the old Caledonian forest, so wood based. So instead of being kind of earthy and kind of medicinal, it tastes more kind of smoky, and that's a real difference for Laphroaig, and one of the things that goes to making us unique. So this is the floor maltings here at Laphroaig, one of only a handful left that do this process within the industry, and very unique process. What it helps us do, it helps us manipulate the smoke flavour profile of the malted barley that we'll use in the kind of ongoing processes. So there's 3 parts to floor malting. The first part, the steeps, which you can see here behind me. The second part is the kind of germination, and the third part is the kilning. So in the background as well, we're emptying a steep just now, so the steeping's the first part. Basically what we do in steeping, we take 7 tonne of barley, we put it into the steep, we'll then do 3 periods of wetting, just over 2 days, and basically what we'll have done here, we'll have tricked the barley into thinking it's springtime again, and given it the energy it needs for the next phase, the germination process. So, again, we're laying it out on the floor behind us here. This is the start of the germination process, and basically what happens during the process, you're basically growing the grains, and we take a look at some of these grains in here, you'll be able to see that inside the end there's a wee embryo. What it does, it grows a root along the inside of the grain, and that puts down enzymes into the starches so that when you add hot water in the mash house, they'll become soluble starches or sugars. So we'll control this process. You see there's a thermometer here in the floor as well. This is how we control the growth of the germination, and keeping the temperature profile about 18 Celsius. And how do you do that in here? Simple things, opening and closing the windows, basically dictate the flavour profile. How often you turn it, because to cool it down we have to flick it up in the air, and that cools the ambient temperature of the air, will cool the grain, so the hotter it is, the more we have to turn it as well, the more we have to open the windows. Very, very traditional process, very simple process. The only thing that's changed in here over the last 100 years is the turners that we use. Before that, these things here, the shale, this is what they're used, and you just grab the grain, flick it up in the air like so, and this cooled it down. And they had 4 or 5 guys just working all in a row, and again, flicking it up, cooling it down. So we'll control the growth of this, as I've said, for 6 days. And then the enzyme production will be its maximum. We then basically just drag it along the floor with mechanical shovels and into the kilning stage, the third part of this process. What happens here is it's loaded into the kiln. The kiln bed's maybe about 15 to 18 inches deep. We then bring that down, we'll level it out with brushes, and then light the peat fire below that. We'll go and have a look at the kilning process now. Okay, so this is the kiln fire, and this is the place where we'll burn the peat to flavour the malted barley upstairs. Might be expecting a lot of flames. It's not hot in here, not hot at all. What we're trying to do here, we're trying to flavour and then dry. And these two separate processes go to making this part of Laphroaig unique. Every other single distillery with a floor maltings will peat and dry at the same time. We peat first and then dry, and this two-step process really differentiates the flavour profile, and it gives us some more of these kind of tarry, smoky flavours that you do associate with the brand. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you upstairs and show you the peat smoke coming through the grain inside the kiln. Now as you've seen, we've loaded the grain in here this morning, loaded the kiln, we've lit the peat fire, and this is the result of that. The grain will stay in here for approximately 12 to 15 hours, just 15 feet above the heart of this fire, and we flavour it. At the end of this process, we'll have a really heavily peat flavoured malt, and then it goes into the next stage where we'll dry it. Okay, so here we are in the mash house now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through this box. It takes you through the stages we've done so far. This one here, this is barley, what we'll have started off with in the floor maltings. The process of floor malting will take us to this. This is the malted barley, so slightly different colour. What we will do, up till this period, we will have it in bins and rested for 3 weeks, just to let the yield become higher within the malted barley. What we then do, we'll grind it up through the mill, and we'll form this stuff here. This is grist, and the grist from the mill will take about 5.5 tons to give us one mash in this vessel here. This is the lighter ton, and the mashing process split into 5 stages. What we do, the first stage, we mix the grist with the water from the Laphroaig reservoir together. We just basically mix it up. The temperature that they mix at is crucial to gain the maximum extract as well. So 63.5 Celsius they're mixed at. They're then left to fuse for about 15 minutes. Again, just kind of enacting some of these enzymes. And how the mash tun works, it's basically like the grist will float on top of a bed of water, and we'll just start to drain it off through that, out through the plates below, and then into one of these vessels you can see behind me. So first flush out 25,000 litres behind into the vessel. We then start to use the Laphroaig water again, and we spray on top and we call it sparging, and this is the kind of second or third part of the process. We just do another couple of flushes into the vessel. When that's done, we've basically just take another flush in and we'll recycle it back to one of the heating tanks behind us here. And what this does, any sugars and flavours we have left in the grist, it'll recycle them back into the next mash. The last part of this process, the rake arms in the louter tun here, they'll start to go counterclockwise. And this pushes the spent grains or the draff out through a hole in the floor and out to the big grey tank we have out the back here. We then have lorries come in and they'll take this away to be used for cattle feed in the island. Now we do have another process in the mash house here, it's the fermentation, and I'll take you over and show you what happens during that process. So this is us in the fermentation area, and we have 6 vessels in this area, and each one's at a different stage. What we do at this point though, after we've extracted the sugary wort from the mash tun, we add this stuff here. Now this is yeast, and this is basically the magic ingredient. What will happen is all the sugars and flavours we've extracted from the malt, we add the yeast, and it turns the sugary liquid into an alcohol. And the process is very quick, just over 2 days. And with each vessel being at a different stage, you can see the fermentation process gets really vigorous at some points during the fermentation, and then it kind of settles down and turns into this liquid we have in here. Now in this vessel we have a completed fermentation, so I'm just going to take a quick sample of that and show you the liquid we have here. It also gains heat during the fermentation, so from setting at maybe 18 Celsius, as it ferments it builds up to maybe 34 Celsius, and the temperature point's crucial so that we don't kill our magic ingredient in here. So nice kind of cloudy liquid here. This is 8.5% volume, so it's a nice warm beer, strong beer as well. Very, very peaty, very heavy, very bitter, and quite yeasty as well, and very sweet. Yep, just as expected. Really like liquid smoke at this point, because before we distill it, this is almost kind of 3 times the concentrate you'll get in the final spirit as well. Now this is ready to be pumped over to the still house to be distilled, and we have an intermediate vessel called a charger in between, and it'll be pumped over there in the next few minutes, ready for distillation. This is the still house here at Laphroaig, and again it's very much one of the things that makes us unique within the industry, because in here we have 3 wash stills going this way, and we have 4 spirit stills you can see behind me here. First distillation in these wash stills you see here, basically boil up the wash from the mash house, get it bubbling up, and in the necks and the wash stills you can see a foam. We cut the steam back and we leave it simmering. Now as it starts to simmer, this is when it produces the vapours. First thing the vapours do, you can see the copper stills here. The reason they're copper is to get a chemical reaction. This chemical reaction almost changes the formation or makeup of the vapours. And this is what allows the spirit to keep evolving during the maturation stage. And this is the reason why copper is so crucial. What then happens is the vapours rise up the neck. Now not all can get through the neck at the one time, so you get what's called reflux. And the more reflux you have, the more reaction with copper, the more chemical reactions you have, so the more this changes the flavour profile. Now here at Laphroaig, we run our stills pretty slowly compared to the majority of the industry, so we don't have a lot of reflux. But what we do have is the next thing up, the bit that links the still to the condenser unit. It's called the line arm, and the line arms go up the way at Laphroaig. That's very unique within the industry. There's only 4 or 5 distilleries where they do this. And because we're distilling slowly and the line arms go up the way, we don't push a lot of the heavy oils or flavours over into the spirit. So even though Laphroaig's a really heavily peated spirit, it's actually quite light bodied. It's then condensed back into a liquid and collected in the safe. Now the liquid we collect from our first distillation we call low wines. And basically what you'll have done, you'll have taken your 8.5% volume wash up to about 35% volume low wines. We just run all the alcohol out of that. This process takes about 5.5 hours, and when the alcohol's out, we're finished with the liquid. In the second distillation, you split it into 3 parts. Here in Islay we call it 4 shots. You have your spirit run and then your faints. In the mainland Scotland they call it heads, hearts, tails. So it just depends where you are, but basically it's the same principles. What we then do here at Laphroaig, we've got the longest 4 shot or heads run in the industry. We kind of recycle this back in with the low wines from the first distillation for 45 minutes before we turn it round and separate out the spirit run. But the spirit run here, we're wanting the kind of heavier, deeper flavours that you associate with Laphroaig flavour profile in the single malt. Now the first and the third parts that I've mentioned, the heads and the tails or the 4 shot and the faints, get recycled back with the low wines from the first distillation. They're always mixed together and then put back into the spirit stills again. Now again, Laphroaig, you can see 3 in the first distillation and 4 in the second distillation. How does that work? How can it be balanced? Well, the answer is it isn't balanced over stills. What we do here at Laphroaig, we have another tank up the back where we keep 25,000 litres of low wines, 4 shot and faints, all mixed up together, and then we run the big still at the end, number 1. It doesn't run constantly, it maybe runs once or twice over every fermentation vessel. And with this we balance over every fermentation vessel rather than a double distillation, which is very much separates us from the industry as well and allows us to keep the unique flavour profile of Laphroaig going. So this is the casks that we use with 99.9% of the spirit that we use. And these are American bourbon barrels made out of American oak, and these hold about 200 litres. Now with Laphroaig we have a special relationship with a bourbon distiller. You see here, Maker's Mark Distillery. Maker's Mark do a different thing with their casks. They'll air dry them for 3 months longer in Kentucky in preparation for getting them ready for their use. What this does is it kind of opens up the wood grains further, allows the spirit to penetrate deeper and extract more of these kind of flavours you get from the oak barrels. I'm just going to smell one here behind us. Fantastic flavours coming out there, nice deep kind of wood and vanilla flavours coming through there, and this is the great thing, a good consistency with Maker's Mark casks, which allows us to be very consistent in our maturation here at Laphroaig. This is the cooperage area at Laphroaig and we're very lucky to have one. Barrel making really hasn't changed over the last 200 years or so, but what happens is as they come whole, shipped from America, we do have some repairs that we need to get done. So with that and the expansion and contraction that happens in the warehouses, we do need to make some repairs. And Peter's our cooper here at Laphroaig and he uses fancy tools like we have here. So some you can see behind me as well, but basically what we're doing here, we'll be able to get some kind of handcrafted into the barrel side of things so that we get them ready for filling and then ready for the big sleep. Here we are inside the famous #1 warehouse at Laphroaig Distillery. Now, we're in a warehouse here, so as you can imagine there's lots of fantastic smells in here. Just out through the wall to my left we have the Atlantic Ocean, so lots of kind of sea atmosphere in here. Then with the casks maturing away, a lot of kind of alcohol in the atmosphere as well, so them mixed plus the kind of the damp dark atmosphere in here, fantastic smell. Now as the casks are maturing away with the big sleep, what happens is there's a kind of expansion and contraction through the seasons, and with that the spirit goes into the cask, draws out the wood flavours, and then it contracts back in the winter. Now while the whisky's maturing away we do lose a lot through evaporation. We call this the angel share, and because we're right in the Gulf Stream in Islay as well, we do have a higher losses than you would get in mainland Scotland. Now you might have noticed as well I've got a different size cask to my right here. This is a quarter cask and these are completely unique to Laphroaig as well. Now what happens is we'll get, with one of our brands called quarter cask, we get the bourbon barrels ages 5 up to 11-year-old, we'll mix them together and we'll double mature them in these casks. And you might be thinking, well, it's not quarter of a bourbon barrel as you can see behind me, it's actually quarter of a sherry butt. And a sherry butt is casks used for European oak used for the sherry industries. And quarter casks are basically a reintroduction of a very kind of old process. These would have originally been used about 125 years ago, one on each side of the pack horse as you go to market, and The reason they're that side is 2 people could lift them onto the side of the horse. So smaller volume, but easier to lift. So we've reintroduced this process, and it's become one of our fastest growing bands over the last few years. What I think we should do now, I think we should basically pull the bung out of one of these, and you can show you the colour that's come in since the spirit we've produced in the still house. This is a quarter cascade, and then behind me you can see the sherry butt as well. So you get to see the scale and the difference. So quarter the size of a sherry butt. We're just going to open this one up. So hopefully be able to do this first time. Okay, so that's the bung out. We now get the Valenche into the cascade. Give it a wee mix so we mix the kind of flavours up. And so this is the liquid. As you can see, fantastic colour. This liquid will be going for bottling in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. So it's finished, almost finished its journey. If we smell it, oh, fantastic smell. Even though it's really cold in here and it's almost closing the whisky, you still get lots of vanilla, lots of kind of oaky flavours coming through. A real kind of bread effect in this one as well. And then it's kind of enveloped by the kind of peaty, smoky flavours you'd associate with Laphroaig as well. So this is ready for bottling. And so what we should do now, we need to go to the Friends of Laphroaig lounge, and I'll take you and show you the rest of the family. So this is the Friends of Laphroaig lounge, and it's here at the site of the first illicit still at which the worldwide phenomenon that now is Laphroaig all started off. Just below us here is where the Kilbride stream meets the kind of Atlantic Ocean, if you like, and this is where it all started for Laphroaig. Now, what is Friends of Laphroaig? Well, Friends of Laphroaig was started in 1994. We have about 15,000 visitors who come to us every year, but the vast majority can't come to the site. So we created a club almost for the Friends of Laphroaig, and right now we've just got over 400,000 members, so it's a pretty big club. And when you come to the distillery, you get to see your name in volumes like such. And we have a lady here, Kristen Axinge from Västerås in Sweden, and you can see the sign in the book as well, so that's pretty neat when they come. What we also do, we give you a square foot of land, as I've said previously, up beside the water supply, and we give you the coordinates for that. We send you out into the field with the cap, the boots and the jacket, the flag of your nation, and you plant that on your square foot, and then we give you rent for that square foot. So when you come back to the distillery, we take you into the clubhouse and we give you a dram. What could be better? The other parts about Friends of Laphroaig are the drams as well. We do exclusive bottlings for Friends of Laphroaig. So this name here, Carchas, is what it says here. And Carchas means friendship in the local dialect, which is Gaelic. And Carchas is a brand that's exclusive to Friends of Laphroaig. So every year, normally about the kind of whisky festival in Islay, so bank holiday in May, we produce a bottling exclusively for Friends of Laphroaig, and that's offered up online as well. With some Friends whisky, just like to say slàinte to the friends all around the world. So we've taken you the tour and through all the processes that go into making the Laphroaig spirit unique. Let's meet the family. Here they are. First one here, this is the 10-year-old Laphroaig, the main brand within the Laphroaig family and by far the most popular. We've got 10-year-old cask strength just to the right here. What's the difference? Well, it's basically just the strength of alcohol and the way we bottle it. We basically just barrier filter the 10-year-old cask strength, put it into a bottle, and we do it in smaller batches so that we get variation. And we're hoping to do different batches every year so that there is slight variation within this one. Over here, this is quarter cask, which is the rising star within the Laphroaig family. The one with the most momentum, gaining the most sales, just really, really popular. We then have an extension of the quarter cask family with triple wood. So quarter cask is 2 woods, triple wood is 3 wood. The third wood is an Oloroso sherry, European oak finish on this one as well. Couple of maybe a couple of years in the sherry casks, and then into the bottle for that. This side, 18-year-old, 100% bourbon barrels again, and 18 years old, slightly differently bottled, non-chill filtered, 48% alcohol. Then the last one at the end, 25-year-old. Now 25-year-old is a mix of kind of sherry and bourbon barrels, 40% sherry, 60% bourbon. So you're getting a mix of flavours in this one that you don't associate with the kind of normal Laphroaigs. So that's the end of the tour. I really hope you enjoyed it, and maybe we can get you to Islay someday. Slàinte.